Hey everyone, I believe it's time to start. We have wonderful speakers today. We will wait for a couple of minutes more for everyone to join. We have a lot of attendees registered today, but let me also start in this introduction and let me start with introducing our topic for today. Today we are going to discuss AI-driven supply chain strategies for online sales, and in more detail we will discuss how to empower your operation team for profitable growth. Thank you so much. We are starting, and let me also continue with introducing our speakers. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, ladies first. So my name is Natalie. I'm Vice President of Global Sales and Partnership at Streamline. And I am certified supply chain professional, and I'm also working on PhD topic related to innovation and development. And if you're talking about my personal passion, my mission is to consolidate supply chain expert globally, actually the best supply chain experts, and I'm very happy to introduce two of them. Let me start with our guest speaker, Adam Besson. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. So welcome to the webinar. Adam is a supply chain leader and technology enthusiast passionate about driving innovation in the industry. As the founder of and CEO of FlexChain Holdings, he helps businesses build agility, resilience, and profitability through advanced data analytics and supply chain expertise. With experience across private equity, Fortune 500, CPGs, startups, and retail, Adam understands the challenges of modern supply chain firsthand. And we know that there are a lot of challenges. At FlexChain, his team specializes in freight management, supply chain analytics, nearshoring, and distribution network design, delivering practical solutions to complex logistic challenges. We are excited to hear his insights today, so please welcome Adam. Thank you so much. And let me also introduce our second speaker. Please welcome Jonathan Abernathy, my colleague. Jonathan is a supply chain expert with experience enabling companies by digitalizing their supply chains from end to end. This breadth of experience covers transportation management, global trade, e-commerce, and demand and supply planning. With a background in engineering and manufacturing, Jonathan understands the challenges of supply chain, challenges a supply chain can face, and the opportunities companies have to make their supply chain resilient and automated. Using his breadth of knowledge and technical background, Jonathan acts as a representative for Streamline GmbH. Together, Jonathan and Streamline work to make a positive impact on people, communities, and clients. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us. Thank you so much for your contribution, your knowledge. And welcome, Adam and Jonathan, to this webinar as speaker.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to my favorite question, and this question is to our guests, to our attendees. Guys, just to make sure that everything's fine with the connection, I usually ask our attendees to write simple hello and just city or country where you're located. Usually our webinars are broadcast to global, and we have people from Europe, from Asia, US. So of course there are sometimes differences, but usually representation is very global. So let's check it out today. Let's start from Egypt, Montreal, Memphis, Italy. Thanks Europe for joining. Costa Rica, Turkey, perfect. Portland, Minnesota, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Vancouver, Canada. We have a lot of US, we have a lot of Canada today. Brooklyn, welcome. Michigan, welcome. So great. This is very nice confirmation that we have no problem with technical connection and everything else like that. So welcome to the webinar, and let's move on. Let's check out our content for today. So let me cover a little bit about webinar logistics. there are 4 main points I would like to mention. First of all, please stay engaged. Engage with us. Please submit your questions during the webinar. We will have Q&A session at the end, but you're absolutely welcome to ask your question when you have them. We will have several demos. We will have several topics, so feel free to ask your question all the time. We are very interactive in our approach. Webinar will be interactive, and we will have several polls, and I would really appreciate if you answer questions, because your opinion is important. This is something that actually we communicate to get your opinion. You will definitely don't miss out this webinar, because we will have recording just a couple of days, usually 1 or 2 business days after the webinar. And I'm sure that the most important in our life is knowledge, education. So if you would like to learn more, if you would like to communicate more with speakers, and I'm sure that there are a lot of questions and a lot of topics to discuss, you feel free to book session with them. So today we have a great gift from both speakers, opportunity to communicate with them. So just go ahead. You're supposed to see links to their calendars right now, and you will see them during the webinar. So just book the call. Great. Let's move on, and let's also cover our agenda. Just in a couple of words. So introduction, I believe successfully done. We will also discuss today changing landscape of supply chain planning in e-commerce. The role of time series forecasting, planning and logistics in e-commerce, beyond the forecast, supply chain agility, and conclusions from experts, and QA at the end. Thank you so much. Right now, Jonathan, stage is yours, so please continue.
Yep, thanks so much, Natalie. So as Natalie mentioned, I'm Jonathan Abernathy, and I currently represent Streamline. And so who are we? We are a leading company in supply chain planning that was founded in 2009. And since inception, Streamline has grown to service over 1,200 manufacturers, distributors, and retailers in over 35 different countries. And to do that, we've partnered with some exceptional people, such as Adam and FlexChain. If you look at the top right of the slide, you can see some of our awards. So whether you're reviewing on Gartner or G2, Streamline is a leader in its space and has been recognized as having the best relationship, fastest implementation, and very consistent awards quarter after quarter, just showing the commitment of our people to providing the best service and solution. The last thing I want to draw attention to is the bottom of the slide. So you can see a bunch of different verticals here. So whether you're food and beverage, distribution, retail, manufacturing, whether you're doing business through e-commerce or through retail, or just supplying a specific part to a vendor. No matter where you're at, Streamline can help you. So we'd love to have a conversation. And then I will pass it over to Adam to talk a little bit about FlexChain.
Thank you, Jonathan. So just a bit on my background. So prior to starting FlexChain, I came from the retail, e-commerce, and CPG world. Most recently as head of supply chain planning at a PE-owned business called Rugs USA. What I really set out to build in launching FlexChain is basically a boutique consultancy that could handle best-in-class logistics execution. So we have an in-house freight and logistics agency, but being able to really pair that with proprietary analytics software that is able to bridge the gap between the system side of the business and the operational side of the business to be able to inform best-in-class logistics decisions. So we say is software is in the service, so not software as a service, but software in the service. We partner with Streamline on implementations with their clients to help kind of get their tech footprint established the right way. And then we'll work with them on an ongoing basis to kind of use the output from those systems to significantly drive logistics costs down while improving service levels. We'll get more into the how later on in the demonstration, but just really excited to be here with everybody today, and thank everybody for joining. So getting started here, right? In terms of what we're really looking to cover in this webinar. So just to kind of set the table on e-commerce and what it represents to industry, right? So everybody kind of knows e-commerce and its importance, especially since the pandemic. Essentially in the world of retail, right? E-commerce has seen, double-digit growth basically every single year for as long as I can remember. There's tremendous benefits in terms of just how much more quickly a business can launch and scale products, own the full customer life cycle by having kind of a direct link to their customers via being able to sell, direct to consumer, as opposed to always having to work through intermediaries, which was the world of retail for most businesses before. And also, the much lower real estate footprint, et cetera, of being able to sell your product online. Of course, most businesses, many businesses, are pure play e-commerce where, they only sell their product direct to consumer online. Some businesses will be omni-channel where they'll have just, a variety. And that's kind of where the trends are going is being able to sell through different marketplaces, whether it's Amazon, Google, on your own site, or, even direct to store. As the world has moved toward e-commerce, there's tremendous benefits, but there are also pressures that come with having to own the entire, essentially the entire direct sales cycle to your customers, right? And a lot of that is needing to set the right kind of foundation for your business by planning appropriately. And basically, now that you're having to read, customer demand, et cetera, right? You're not being able to rely on just a few B2B partners to give you the information about what you're expected to sell and then being able to supply that. Now you have to be able to take kind of the historical data itself and predict where you're placing, how much inventory you're going to be purchasing to service your business, as well as where you're going to be placing it, right? And, many businesses kind of struggle to move from a, store or, other, wholesale-based model to being able to sell direct to consumer, and that starts at the planning stage, right? One of the key kind of challenges that comes with once you move into e-commerce from a planning perspective is that you have to make sure that your inventory is regionally distributed to lower logistics costs, shipping costs, as well as maximizing service levels, right? So that adds a tremendous amount of complexity where normally you can kind of rely on, stores or, large retail customers to tell you kind of, okay, when do we need to restock, and you could ship, product in bulk. Now you're having to do many, many smaller shipments. And you have to now plan your business, seasonality, trend, et cetera, appropriately. Outbound shipping in particular is just a huge money sink for e-commerce businesses. Usually it consumes 10 to 15% of revenue. So a huge, huge amount of cost that businesses incur when they move into e-commerce, and it becomes exponentially more important to do it right. Another challenge with e-commerce is that the lower barriers to entry mean that there are always new competitors emerging, right? Always, there's much less margin for error because when you're selling online, right, especially if you're talking about marketplaces like Amazon, Google Shopping, et cetera, if you go out of stock or you're not able to service customers quickly, right, basically having your product close, you can easily be usurped by a competitor. And then, the algorithm, kind of sets you back significantly. So there's less margin for error. You need to be able to react quickly with, to changes in forecasts, with promotions and other adjustments that are going to be able to protect your business. So again, really reinforcing here that having the right systems foundation is key for e-commerce. And, ideally it's a system that automates as much as possible. And that's kind of where the AI piece comes into play, is that, many AI tools are emerging that are helping businesses plan their, operations more effectively. And it's really, really important to tap into the capabilities that AI is able to bring to basically take some of the manual work out of planning for SKU forecasts, and handling the, replenishment aspect of the business. And we'll get into some of those capabilities later on.
And then, so Adam, would you say that the three key challenges whenever dealing with online sales are lead times, shipping costs, as well as increased competition?
Yeah, I'd say those are the three, right? And there's so many others that go kind of beyond the scope of operations, right? When you talk about just the aspect of promoting the business, et cetera. But right, operationally, those are the big ones that I tend to kind of see when it comes to the e-commerce side from just, where companies end up losing a lot of money, right? And it's ultimately one business, right? And one source of finances and funds that you're going to be able to use to scale that business. So money lost in operations is money that you can't spend marketing and merchandising and developing the best product. So we kind of really have to see it all as being interconnected.
Gotcha. Thank you.
100% agree. Thank you, Adam.
For sure. And moving over to you, Jonathan, I believe you have some questions you wanted to ask.
Yep. So this is the first of the 2 questions as part of the webinar. So what challenges are you facing in planning for your online sales channel? And so feel free to select which ones apply. So first, are you unsure of how much inventory is needed to support online sales channel? Is there difficulty allocating inventory across multiple warehouses or to lower shipping costs? Are you struggling to coordinate multiple sales channels for your S&OP processes? Are you manually managing demand for too many SKUs and customers? Or is your business seasonal trending, as Adam mentioned, so it makes sales patterns difficult to predict?
Great question. Thank you, Jonathan, for preparing those answers, and great question, like really great. Actually interesting to check what will be the answers, right? Me personally, I would choose all of them.
Yeah.
All
It's
of
always,
them.
yeah, this is almost like just a yes, no.
Yeah. So please do us a favor, respond just a couple of more seconds, and let's check it out and move on. Do we already have the result?
No, not quite yet. And I'm not allowed to vote, so we'll give them just a second longer.
Okay, great. Just curious.
Okay, there we go. And we actually have some pretty even splits. So the lowest number is actually at 30%, unsure of how much inventory is needed to support online sales channels. And then we have a tie for first place at 48%, too many SKUs and customers to manage demand for. And then business is seasonal or trending, making sales patterns difficult to predict. But some pretty good answers. Thank you.
Mhm.
Then I'll pass it back over to Adam.
Perfect. So I want to cover here sort of the role of time series forecasting. When we say time series forecasting, what we essentially mean is using your business's sales history as a set of data points to predict future demand that you could then supply your business for, right? Once, this is something that has really kind of taken off as, more and more businesses have gone direct to consumer, because essentially you're working directly off of the, you have this direct connection with your customers, and you're oftentimes fulfilling, orders direct to customers and reading sales data and having that direct interaction, as opposed to working entirely through an intermediary, right? So, once you're not relying on, a B2B retailer to supply the forecast for you, right, it becomes really important to be able to, plan the business, plan your demand yourself, so that you're kind of able to ensure that your business is properly stocked, right? And either direction can hurt you, right? Because stockouts, obviously that hurts your business with customers. It could hurt you on e-commerce marketplaces. And then, similarly, right, overstocking, right, you're tying up cash and inventory that you're not selling, which means that's, money that you're not now able to, use to, fund campaigns or replenish other items that are maybe more threatened, right? So it's really about getting it right. Another piece that kind of, adds a layer of complexity with e-commerce is that you're no longer just thinking about, okay, when it comes to deciding how much you want to buy or how to buy, in a traditional model, you're able to bring it all into your warehouse and then fulfill, to various stores, or to other distribution partners. We're now, oftentimes the art, especially if you're a multi-warehouse, if you either work with a 3PL that has multiple warehouses, or you as a business have multiple warehouses, you're also having to plan your demand regionally, right? And plan your supply regionally, so that you're bringing the right amount of the right product into the right place at the right time. So, it's tremendously valuable to get it right. And, this usually requires a system, right? I'm certainly, I've done lots of planning in Excel over the years, and there's some great capabilities you're able to do yourself. But, once you start, really having to plan a complex business, right, it's very hard to do, purely, via Excel, right? Because every item has its own seasonality, right? So different distribution of, forecast at different points in the year. Every item has its own trend. Different items have different sales patterns in general. And once you're having to plan a business regionally, you really need kind of, a systematic approach that's able to take all the data points in and, give you kind of a supply plan that is mapped to your, regional and distribution footprint. So that's, so Jonathan's going to talk briefly about kind of how Streamline is able to kind of help address this in their system, just to give, everybody an idea of, what do I mean when I say kind of time series forecasting and how it feeds into regional stocking decisions.
Yeah, I think that segues nice into Streamline. So I think that for any business that you want to be scalable or sustainable, as you grow, you have to move from Excel sheets to an actual system to enable your demand planning team. And so something that Streamline is able to do is we can forecast at the SKU level, the regional level, the channel level. So let's just say that you were always retail beforehand and now you're getting it into e-commerce. We can enable you to do that. Something else that's super cool is that, you might have human error right now that's leading to those stockouts or overstocks. But Streamline is going to equip you to get rid of those. So instead of relying on a person to crunch numbers in Excel, you can utilize machine learning and AI decision making to select your forecast type for you, the correct history depth, and even like detect outliers and cleanse your data. So our mission is to help automate your processes as well as make them more accurate. And yep, I think that we're going to get into an actual live demonstration next.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Yep, absolutely. So let me share my screen. And then if you have any questions throughout the live demonstration, then please just drop them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them following the demonstration. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
we can see your screen.
Excellent. So this is what Streamline looks like for anybody that's not seen it before. And as soon as you open Streamline, you can see that we have some tabs over here. So we're initially going to start with the demand tab. And in the demand tab, you can see what we call the SKU tree or the money tree right here to the upper left-hand corner. And currently our money tree is organized by category. However, since we're focused on forecasting at the regional level, we're going to reconfigure it. So you can see this configuration here at the bottom, and then we're actually going to swap it from by item to by location. Now, whenever you swap it over, you can see that there is a green number and a red number next to each location. A green number indicates an overstock or excess inventory, and a red number indicates a stock out or where you might miss a sell. So immediately you get a great financial view of your business and where there might be issues. Now, we can see that we have it set up as a 2 echelon. So we have a DC that's going to feed 4 different warehouses in New Jersey, San Francisco, New York, and Los Angeles. We're going to look at New Jersey today. So let's kind of dive down into the SKU tree. And then we can see that for this concrete block, let's just say we're going to have a stock out and we're going to miss about $10,000 worth of sales. So we want to see what we can do to fix that. So whenever you click on a specific SKU, the data for the SKU is then pulled over to this table to the right, where you can see historic actual sales going back a couple of years, and then your forecast going forward. You can also see some other important metrics, such as your projected inventory, your ordering plan, what have you. This information in the table is pulled down to this graph to the bottom, where we can again see that historic sales in gray, the model in blue, the forecast going forward in red. In green, we see the inventory, and you can see that our inventory is actually going to go to 0 right here, hence that stock out that we need to avoid. And then once Streamline recognizes that and gets your inventory back to a suitable level, you get that healthy zigzag staying above your safety stock. A couple other things that I mentioned on the previous slide that really makes Streamline exceptional is its ability to select the correct history depth. So you can see that in this instance, we are actually only considering 12 months of data to create our model and kind of ignoring all this back here where there might have been somewhat of a downward trend, but we now see it as a constant level. The other cool thing is that we're able to detect outliers. So you can see these 2 black dots right here. So Streamline is saying, hey, We don't think that this is indicative of your business, so we're actually going to eliminate this from the model. So a lot of AI decision making to make sure that we're giving you the most accurate model and making sure that we keep your business sustainable. Once we've double checked our demand and everything looks good, we're actually going to swap over to the inventory tab. And in the inventory tab, you can see all of your SKUs, but I've actually already created a filter up here since we're focusing on this concrete block today. So whenever I click on this concrete block, we can see that item code right here. We can see the DC and the 4 different warehouses. And if we scroll to the right, we're able to see the inventory at each. So we see that we have a surplus of inventory at our DCs, a slight stock out at 2 of our warehouses. So we definitely want to get inventory there. And then the right level at 2 warehouses in this light green. As we continue to scroll to the right, you see some metrics for the concrete block, such as service level, safety stock, sales price, what have you. And then if you scroll all the way to the right, you're actually able to see the current order. So for this current order, we're not ordering from a supplier, we're ordering from ourselves since we already have it at the DC. So these are considered transfer orders. And the source is from the DC going to each warehouse. Once you've double checked that everything looks perfect, all you do is click planned orders. It pulls this over here for our final check. Our source is from the DC going to our specific warehouses, and these are our quantities. We aren't connected to an ERP right now. However, if we were, then we would simply click create orders, and then it would send this to our ERP to execute the orders and then place those transfers. So it's a very seamless process going from demand to inventory planning to ordering, and then it helps you forecast and execute per location, per channel, or per SKU. So that's a quick overview of the flow of how it could maybe enable your process.
Thank you
Thank you, Natalie.
so much, Jonathan. Very concise and sometimes super informative. Guys, if you do have any questions about it, feel free to drop your questions to chat and we will just respond to them. But so far, everything looks so straightforward that we can just move forward.
Excellent. Are you guys able to see my screen again?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right, so just kind of dovetailing off of that demonstration from Jonathan, right, and just reinforcing how when you're planning your e-commerce business, as we move away from the bulk, mostly bulk shipping option, where we're basically sending bulk shipments to stores or bulk shipments to other distributors, right, and not having to think too much about the regional distribution of our business. That changes drastically. And I know I touched on this earlier, but in an e-commerce business, right, generally speaking, outbound shipping constitutes 10 to 15% of revenue, right? Meaning at $100 million a year e-commerce business, right, is spending $10 to $15 million on outbound shipping, which is a massive, massive cost, right? Almost, 2x, 2 to 3x what that same business would be spending in a non-e-commerce environment. So getting the location right is very, very critical, both in terms of your initial, replenishment plan in basically, where you're stocking, that inventory when you buy it, but also in, how you're able to adapt and execute transfers, et cetera, between your warehouses if you end up overstocked or understocked in any given node in your supply chain, right? And remembering also that, that regional demand, it's varying by item, right? So every item has its own, basically, you might have an outdoor, let's imagine if you have an outdoor focused business, right? Where you're selling, I've worked for some companies where they have like outdoor and summer assortment, right? Well, then the regional distribution for that item in the summertime, right, might be nationwide, right, in the United States when it's summer, but then, and so a significant portion of your volume for that item during summer months might be, in the Northeast, right? But then during winter months, right, okay, now in the Northeast, nobody's buying outdoor assortment, but in other parts of the country, right, if you're in Florida or you're in Texas, you're in California, it's still nice out, it's still hot out, right? So now all of a sudden the regional distribution for that item has now shifted at a different time of year, where now 60 or 70% of the demand is coming from the South or from the West Coast, right? So it's very, very important to have a system that's able to predict, right, at what your mix needs to be for different items and at different times a year, right? And that's just, it's a very, it's a massive kind of data lift, right? Generally speaking, no one person, no matter how great of an analyst they are, right, can manage that for an entire assortment by themselves or with an Excel sheet, right? It's really, generally speaking, going to be systems driven. Yeah, I mean, so Jonathan is gonna speak to kind of some of those capabilities as well, and how Streamline is able to focus on the inventory allocation regionally.
Yep, absolutely. So the example we just looked at was basically a one-directional flow. So let's say you have a DC going to warehouses, but Streamline can actually go past that. So let's say that instead of that, you have 9 different warehouses and you want them to balance inventory based on demand between them, right? So Streamline is actually able to do something called intersite optimization, where you could say, hey, I need to send stuff from warehouse 1 over to warehouse 3 because I have too much here and not enough there. So we are fully equipped to do that. So no matter how complex your operation, we're able to handle it.
Okay, it looks like it's time for one more demonstration. But before that, Jonathan, if you don't mind, we have several questions actually from our guests. So first one is from Christina. Hi, are you able to download the forecast? Oh, just a second. Are you able to download the forecast data in Excel, and how easy is it to upload the data as well?
Yep. And then I can actually present my screen and run through these if that's all right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So give me just a moment.
Take your time.
And then Adam, I think we might have missed a slide that we need to go back to. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen right now. No problems here.
Okay, excellent. So Christina, yes, we were absolutely able to do that. So if you come right up here in the upper left-hand corner, all you have to do is click export to table. So whether you're looking at your demand, your inventory, various reports, everything, you can export and import. Next question is, yes, you are able to look at historical modeling to get a sense of forecast accuracy. So if you come, we've only focused on the demand and inventory tab so far, but we actually have a reports tab. And so in this reports tab, there are a lot of different options for you to be able to visualize your business. So a very good one, I think, is actually plan versus actual, where you can see, hey, this is what I actually did for this month. This is what I planned for this month. Here's my deviation from the plan, and here's the performance of my model. So, and then we actually have just solely a forecast performance report. So definitely able to do that.
Thank you. There is one more question from Christina again. Could we get the forecast per customer?
Yes, we can. So you're able to forecast so whenever you set up your various channels, right, that SKU tree, then you could actually set up the tree instead of to be by channel, but instead broken down by customer, in which case you could forecast per customer if you so chose. Another cool thing is that we're actually able to aggregate the data. So right now we have it as item categories, but let's just say that it said customer up here instead, then we could select that customer and then it would show data specific to them.
Thank you so much. One more question. How well does a forecast work with production scheduling or other system to schedule production?
Yep, absolutely. So I don't have the example pulled up right now, but we do have, we are able to make manufacturing groups with limitations on how much you're able to produce per day, as well as kind of like taking your raw, intermediate, or finished goods and help you look at material consumption and order according to that. So even if you're not retail and you are in the manufacturing space and you need some help with that, then we're able to do so.
Thanks, Jonathan. Next question I will handle myself. Will this recording be available afterwards? Yes, of course. You will get it 1 or 2 days from now. And one more question. Does your tool allow collaboration across multiple functions like sales, marketing, etc. to enter forecast, override, and track performance against it? Great question. Love it. So, Jonathan, please help with that.
Yep, absolutely. I'm not going to show this full functionality. So if you want to have a meeting after this, then I would love to meet with you and kind of run through it. It's a little bit more in depth, but the answer is yes. So any cell that is yellow is editable. So you can actually put a formula in there so that you can override your forecast. So let's say your company wants to forecast from a top-down approach based upon revenue goals, right? And so you want to put your company's targeted revenue there, then you have the chance to do so. And then let's say that you have a marketing team that has one forecast, a sales team that has another forecast, and then the demand team that has one forecast. We can also help collaboration across different departments. So we're able to create additional forecast versions. So you could say, hey, revenue goal, create this forecast, and you can actually see that it is added to the demand tab. So we have our final forecast right here. We have our revenue goal right here, and then you could go in here and edit this to what your company was targeting.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Let me also add that on G2, Streamline is considered as best modern SNOP, sales and operation planning solution. So short answer will be yes, we do that and we do it really, really well. But we have more questions.
Okay.
How many SAP clients at a given time can you link this to? Actually, many. Can you handle this, Jonathan?
Yep, absolutely. So we have a pre-built integration with SAP, so that's no issue whatsoever. If you go onto our webpage, you can see that we have, I think, 18 pre-built integrations with very common ERPs. And then if you have maybe an older ERP or one that's less common, then we can do a custom API to connect to it. So we're ERP agnostic and more than equipped to connect with whatever.
We still have a lot of questions, but let's do your demo. I'm sure that many of them will just answer with this demonstration, and let's move on, okay? And after that, we'll come back to questions again.
Okay, sounds perfect. So I'm actually going to present a different example this time. So here we can see that instead of looking at our concrete blocks, we're actually going to look at some white women's figure skates. So in this example, again, we have 3 separate warehouses, 2 where there is an out-of-stock issue, and 1 where there is an overstock issue. And I mentioned earlier that Streamline is able to not only send one direction from a DC to a specific warehouse, but we're also able to do a bi-directional flow between warehouses. So if you wanted to do that, all you'd have to do is come in here to Project, go to Settings, and we're actually going to enable inter-site optimization. So transferring between warehouses, inter-site. Whenever you do that, you set your default lead time. And since we're not purchasing from a supplier, you might not be waiting 3 days, but I meant 30 days, but it might only take 3 days for a truck to make it from point A to point B. Whenever we save this change, we can see that we added another tab right here called Inter-site. Whenever we click on this, we can see that Streamline is recommending 2 transfer orders based upon the optimization, and 1 is for these white women's figure skates going to warehouse 1 from warehouse 3. Now, something that you might notice here is that we don't have a transfer from warehouse 1 or warehouse 3 to warehouse 2, and why is that? So Streamline has these transfer regions, and warehouses will only transfer between other warehouses in their area. So let's say that you have a warehouse in Florida and a warehouse in California. You probably don't want to pay the cost to go all the way across whenever you might have another warehouse in Colorado. So it's a smart system that will only transfer between what is logical. Whenever we scroll all the way to the right, again, you can see your current order. We click planned orders, and then you can see, hey, we have this transfer of 11,000 units from warehouse 3 over to warehouse 1. And this expected order date is today, and the delivery date is just 3 days later as we set it whenever we enabled inter-site optimization. So a very simple flow enabling you to transfer between various warehouses. And then are there any other questions in the chat?
Oh, there are a lot actually. So let me just read some of them. Is item data safety stock target minimums lead times pulled from Streamline or ERP?
So there's a couple of ways to do it. So you could either, if you have your safety stock levels that you don't want, that are specific to you and you don't want to be altered, then you're able to upload them from your ERP or through an Excel, what have you. However, it's my recommendation if you're trying to get your excess inventory down to use what Streamline recommends. So we're actually going to come to settings, ABC, and safety stock. And in here, we can see that we can break our SKUs down by ABC analysis, and then we actually associate a safety stock level with each category. So right now we're breaking it down by revenue. There's a bunch of different options for how you're going to categorize. And then if we click into this, you can see that right now we're saying we want a 98% service level for this SKU or for this category. Hence, it's going to set the safety stock accordingly. If you don't want to do it mathematically, then you also have the option to do it per future demand. So let's say I wanted to keep 2 months of safety stock on hand, we're able to do that. Any other questions?
Of course, a lot. Do you enter your forecast manual, or it could be uploaded for all products at once?
So it could be uploaded for all products at once. It's best just to upload your historic sales, and then Streamline. Part of it is the strong AI algorithm producing that future looking forward forecast for you. So we're doing all that work.
Thanks. And the last for this time, for this part, is this customizable? So can we customize for each customer?
Yes, so there are a bunch of different applications. So this SKU tree is set up according to your business. And then we're not going to get into all the examples today, but you can kind of see that like whether you have two echelon is what we looked at today, multi-channel, material requirements planning, inventory planning by month or by week. So no matter how your operations and business are set up, Streamline is very flexible and customizable to meet your needs.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let's move on because we still have a lot of great content from Adam, some great use cases. So let's move on for next slide.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. Is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, so just touching now, right, as we get a little bit beyond the forecast, right, and dovetailing with what Jonathan was covering as well. Once you have a great kind of system and process in place for forecasting and planning your business, it really changes the thinking of how forecasting functions in the business, right? So forecasting, it's never going to be perfect or 100%, right? It's always, the very best forecast that you could have, right? Because there's always going to be some variable of unpredictable customer behavior. There's always going to be some difference in lead time and bringing your inventory in. There's always going to be some amount of error, and it's about getting that as low as possible. But when your whole process is systemized, right? Normally the way businesses will think about distributing inventory and in their network and how to forecast their business, it's really just we need to make a decision for how we buy, right? When we're placing a buy, then we run a forecast and then decide what we want to buy and where we want to put it, right? Once you have a system that's able to monitor your business, monitor your actual sales performance, et cetera, and your supply on an ongoing basis in a kind of harmonized system, you could start thinking about, yes, we want to, how are we going to buy? And in a very systematic way, not just saying, hey, 30% to the Northeast, 30% to the West, 30% to the South. You're really coming up with a very tailored, supply footprint for every single item. But you're also able to kind of continually revisit that based on disruptions that occur either on the demand side or on the supply side, right? And it becomes about continuously optimizing, right? Because normally if you place a purchase order once every month, right? It's almost like if there's any type of disruption, you're not going to necessarily catch it. If you're only looking at your forecast once a month when you're placing a buy, you won't catch any disruption that's occurred until the next month when you're looking at your forecast. And if you're only stocking it based on purchase orders, it might be months till you're able to correct any imbalances in your network. But when you have the right system with inter-branch transfers enabled and you're kind of planning statistically and regionally from the outset, you're able to always rebalance your network and basically avoid leaking a whole bunch of cost or having your customers suffer longer lead times because your inventory is not sitting in the right place. So having the right system really changes the thinking, where forecast becomes proactive business planning capability rather than just a, how do I, what do I need to buy today? Right. That was definitely the transition that, I would always see when we would implement a system in the past, when I was on the operating side. And that's definitely something we kind of look to unlock here. Really, my analogy is always like, if for anybody who invests, right, thinking about it as when you're investing in a whole bunch of stocks and bonds and et cetera, right, if you're only checking your portfolio once every year, right, there's a lot of missed opportunity. Whereas you're able to continually rebalance your portfolio based on what's gone up and what's gone down, you could end up maximizing your ultimate return. And it works the same way when it comes to planning your supply chain.
Right.
And
actually really great. Thanks, Adam. Very insightful.
Yes, investing for supply chain professionals.
Thanks.
So, and Jonathan, we already covered, we covered the demo in the previous, right?
Yep, exactly.
Excellent. So moving on, right, when we look at, now this is kind of coming into where, where FlexChain's capabilities come in and dovetail with that great kind of systems foundation you've set up once you've, gotten your supply chain run through a planning tool, right? Is there are a variety to really, to really maximize the performance of your supply chain beyond just, did I place my purchase order correctly? But now thinking about all the logistics involved in continually rebalancing your network and your inventory placement for minimum cost and maximum service level, right? And that is both an analytical question, right, in terms of being able to have a grasp on your data, but it's also an execution question. And that's really where FlexChain sits as a business. So what we focus on kind of are the three pillars around, around your forecasting and replenishment, right? So the first piece, this actually, I guess, comes in, this is like, bottom layer of the pyramid is network analysis, right? So, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? In the case of network analysis is where am I placing my distribution centers to service my customer base, right? And this comes in, before anything, the sooner you do it, the better, right? But, FlexChain, right, has the ability to run analyses on, on a business's, on your business's sales data, right? And where customers, where all of your shipments are going and where your shipments are coming from to determine basically an optimal, an optimal distribution footprint for your business. Where's the best place to build, to put your next warehouse, right? And being able to kind of run what if scenarios on any number of different cities, candidates for, hey, what would your, outbound shipping cost look like in this scenario versus scenario B, right? What would your inbound lead times look like in, scenario A versus B, right? And being able to help you make sure that, the warehouses that you're looking to open are going to minimize your cost and maximize your service long-term, right? And now these, bottom two pieces, right? So inventory transfers and consolidation and zone skipping, these are more, think about these as agility, right? When you think about post forecasting and replenishment, this is looking at what are adaptations to takes, what I say is they take some of the pressure off of, did I get the perfect forecast? Because as we mentioned earlier, no forecast is 100%. The best in class forecasts are going to have 80% accuracy, right? And so what do you do about that 20% of inevitable error where demand came in higher or lower than you were expecting, supply came earlier or later? Now, what do you do? So the first piece, right, is what we mentioned around turnkey inventory transfers, right? So, as Jonathan was covering in the Streamline demo, Streamline is able to basically output, a recommendation, in real time. It could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, of where do we want to be putting our inventory based on our network, based on where our sales are coming from, right? And what are the ideal, okay, we have 500 units of SKU A that need to move from the West Coast to the East Coast. We have 300 units of SKU B that need to move from the East Coast to the West Coast, right? So Streamline is able to essentially output that information, but then what do you do with it, right? FlexChain is able to basically ingest that set of files, right? And it usually won't be 2 SKUs. It'll be dozens of SKUs and different configurations of units, and our system will basically turnkey build those transfer loads, right, in a way that's optimal. So it'll basically output a load plan that you could essentially execute turnkey, so that nobody has to sit and crunch the numbers and figure out what do we have to put on which truck, right, to basically execute these transfers effectively. On top of that, right, it'll identify opportunities where if there are multiple warehouses on the east and multiple warehouses on the west, maybe there's some opportunity to consolidate those shipments, right? Instead of sending a whole bunch of LTL shipments in various directions, maybe there's an opportunity to combine them and ship them as one FTL across country to really, lower the cost of executing that transfer. So that's one area where we play. The other area, and this is post-sale, right? So inventory transfers are about pre-positioning inventory close to your customers, right? Making sure that you're able to get 1 or 2 day shipping to customers by getting the inventory there beforehand. There's also the option of zone skipping, right? Zone skipping is on orders that have already been placed, right, but are going to be going long distance, right? So you have a warehouse in New Jersey, you have customers in California, you have 1,000 units that you're having to ship parcels from New Jersey over to California, right? And those, to ship long distance, for small parcel costs a fortune, right? It's going to be 2 to 3x the cost of shipping those same parcels locally, right? And so what FlexChain developed is a solution for basically identifying all of those shipments that are going to be going long distance from any warehouses. And what we do is we have a network of warehouses positioned around the country, or we could rebalance to your existing warehouses. But essentially, we will look for opportunities where, hey, there's 1,000 packages that would be going long distance. Those could be loaded onto pallets and shipped in bulk cross country, right, line hauled, and then basically handed to the parcel carrier or to your warehouse much closer to the customer, and then delivered via small parcel from there, right? So in effect, it's like arbitrage on all these long distance small parcel shipments, where if there's opportunities to ship them in bulk and then lower the costs by 20 to 40% on the parcel, on the parcel portion of your spend, right, we'll identify those opportunities proactively and execute them, right? So significant opportunity here to improve service levels while lowering cost, once you're tapped in with the right systems and data, where we're able to, add these agility capabilities off the bat.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you. Let's move on. But we have one more question, so let's cover this one quickly. Jonathan, so question is for you, and question is about Streamline. Does Streamline cover different behavior of an item? And how do we work with a new history? How do we work without any history? So if you have a new item.
Yep. So there's multiple ways. So if you have a certain projection yourself, then you can upload that. If you have a similar item, then we can actually take history from a similar item, or we can maybe do a top-down forecasting approach from the category level. So we have a lot of different ways to accommodate a new item, and then no matter if you have history or not.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then the other part of the question, yes, it selects the correct forecasting approach. So let's say that you have swimwear that obviously is not going to sell whenever it's 30 degrees outside, then Streamline is able to select the best model for it.
Thank you.
And then for the sake of time, oh, go ahead, Adam. My apologies.
I was going to say Jonathan's going to present a case study to cover it.
Okay, yep. And so I'm going to move pretty quickly through this slide because I know we only have 7 minutes left. But showing features and functions only gets you half the story, right? What you want to hear is other clients that have kind of been on the same journey. So Ida is a recent customer of ours that does retail and e-commerce out of the UK. And they were trying to manually do their work on Excel for over 500 SKUs over 3 different warehouses, and it was extremely labor intensive and time consuming. There was a lot of errors, and that was leading to stockouts as well as overstocks. So they looked at the market and they found Streamline, and then it seemed like a good fit. So we partnered and then set some project goals. And so what were those? First, we wanted to automate the data collection for all those SKUs and all those locations. Second, we wanted to provide real-time forecasting and inventory data. And then, I know one of the questions was about customization. So for them, we did customize it because they need to easily separate the warehouse and market segments. And then last but not least, backend integration to their SRP system to eliminate all of that manual connection and any human error. And so by partnering with us, IDA was able to eliminate human error, increase their forecast accuracy, and then significantly cut down on the time spent forecasting and making purchasing decisions. And so I am just going to take one moment because I think the quote is the most important thing on this slide. So I'm going to read it verbatim. So the implementation went exactly as we needed it to. The Streamline team was superb, offering weekly calls, daily answers to our questions, and explanations that were clear and actionable. The system has been a game changer, significantly reducing time and human error in our purchasing process. We are very happy with the results. And so seeing a happy client is really our mission. And so I love reading things like that. Thank you so much, Adam.
Well deserved with all that hard work to put it in place.
Yeah.
So just, quickly diving in here, with some conclusions, just, off of our presentation. We hope it was informative for everybody. But, the question is, should you, is e-commerce, is online sales a good idea? So, the way I see it is there's tremendous potential to grow your business more quickly and with less capital intensive requirements than in traditional retail. So yes, the opportunity is massive. But just because there's maybe a lower barrier to entry, or about somebody who ran an e-commerce store out of their garage, right? Like, it doesn't mean that there's not a need in order to do it well and to really scale and to really connect it with your other channels. It requires investment in the right systems and processes. So think better forecasting, with the right system. Think about regional planning, making sure that your inventory is well placed, and then think about supply chain agility. As once I have gotten my system in place, once I have some projection for my business, how am I reacting to those dynamics and readjusting to make sure that I'm minimizing my costs and maximizing my service levels?
Also,
moving on.
we have our second question. Sorry, Adam. I didn't mean to cut you off. But we have our second question. So what is the priority level for improving planning for your online sales channels? So is it a top priority? We need to get to this right away. Is it a high priority? We plan to work on it during the next 6 months. Is it important? Maybe still this year, and then maybe the next 9 months or so. A moderate priority, maybe it's not a 2025 project, but it's something you want on the books for 2026. And then, or is it a low priority? So something maybe you're just joining to learn a little bit about Streamline, learn a little bit about FlexChain, and best strategies for online sales. And then maybe this is something for the far future. And then
it's always interesting to learn our guests' opinion about it.
Yeah, it's always prioritization in the beginning of the year is always the hardest part, figuring where everything sits, and it's like, okay, I need a dollar figure on this and that. It's always a big challenge. So I'm sure everybody hears.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. The only thing, it's not beginning of the year. It's all you guys end of first quarter. And if our sales and our business is not good, so it's not only high priority, it's emergency. So let's check answers.
Yep. So it looks like a lot of people want to do something this year, the majority of the group, with kind of like that 6-month time frame being the most viable. So looks like we got some projects for 2025. Thank you.
It looks like, but strong majority who are looking to address it this year, 75%.
Great. Let's move on. Again, we have next steps. So,
okay. So for the next steps, first of all, thank you all for joining today. It's great to have you. We only got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to go through this slide pretty quickly too. But consider strategies for your online sales channel improvement. What do you need to increase that order fulfillment and then shorten those delivery times to make sure that you never miss a sale? What can you do to develop better data visibility for your company? So how would you approach allocating inventory maybe to your various warehouses, distribution centers, 3PLs? And you need to have good visibility to make business grade decisions. And then Adam and I are here to help you. So if you would like to book a consultation, then I think the links have already been in the chat, but I think that they might be sent one more time, and we would love to chat with you. So feel free to book something with us.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much, Adam. So, guys, if you do have questions, let us know. We still have about 1 minute, so we can still answer. But I think that we did a great job answering your questions. If we didn't have chance to do it, we will definitely connect with you, and we will help with all of your questions, with everything. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for investing your time in communication and friendship with us. Thank you for being such a great guest, and thanks Adam and Jonathan for incredible webinar full of value, insights, and I really hope that you will join as a speaker again, and our guest join us as guest again. So talk to you soon and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
And thank you for all of your nice words in the chat. So right now we still get like, thank you everyone. Thank you for kind words. It's important for us. We are here for you to support you. Take care and see you soon.